Guys, my favorite character in Young Justice finally had their moment. Let's talk about it. All right, what's going on, guys? And welcome back to Cave Chronicles, where we deep dive into every episode of Young Justice as they're happening. We just finished episode 20, an episode titled Coldhearted, and I wanted to talk about it because a lot happened and it all centered around my favorite character. I'm going to try to make this breakdown episode as concise as possible and really just get into it. And so I want to start talking about what I thought and what actually ended up happening. So at the beginning of the episode, I very much thought that, and what it seemed like, and something that's been happening all season regarding my favorite character, Kid Flash, was that he's kind of been getting the short end of the stick. He gets the short end of the stick with Megan. He seems to get the short end of the stick here in this episode as it pertains to the mission. Everybody's going off and handling this random snowstorm as a team. It's actually the first time we're seeing Young Justice and the Justice League work together on a mission. And who gets left out? My boy, Kid Flash. Unacceptable. However, what I didn't realize and what actually ends up happening at the end of the episode is this actually ends up being one of the most important solo missions that we've seen a character go on this entire season. And yes, we've had moments where Superboy had his solo mission, where he had help, he had a team, right? We've seen duo missions happen, but I would argue that this was ultimately not only the most dangerous mission, but it was actually the most challenging mission that any of the Young Justice team members could have gone on as a solo member. And who did they give it to? They gave it to my boy Kid Flash. And at first, I really thought he was getting the short end of the stick once again. I mean, it starts off with it being his birthday, and then he finds out that the girl that he's been crushing on ever since the first episode, Megan, actually is taken. Again, a situation I don't know how no one knew. I mean, they basically feed each other, so it was pretty obvious, but it was still heartbreaking to see my boy Kid Flash find out that way and have that news delivered by Artemis was painful. Then he gets sent on a solo mission, and it, all the pieces were really lining up to, lead you to believe that this episode was nothing more than Kid Flash getting the boot once again. And honestly, to my pleasant surprise, that was actually to the contrary. He was actually one of the biggest stars of this episode, and seeing him actually save a queen of a country, I couldn't have been more proud of one of my favorite characters to have that responsibility and to still come out on top using his brains, using his abilities, and still finding a way to save the day. And another thing that I really enjoyed about this episode is it very much was your classic bait and switch. And I know I've talked about that a number of times in the last couple episodes because it feels like it keeps happening. But it's one of my favorite aspects where you go into the episode thinking one thing and you think that the show is kind of leaning you in this direction. And then you get to the end of the episode and you realize that it was all just a play to get you to, think one thing. And then they're like, nope, it's actually this thing. And honestly, I love that stuff. It's something I don't feel like I'll ever get sick of or something that ever gets old because it's exciting. It keeps you engaged in the episode. It keeps you engaged in the action, and you never exactly know how things are going to play out. And I really enjoyed that aspect of this episode. Now, one question that did come up at the end of the episode, one thing that I'm still not sure of is there a new player involved that we have not seen yet? Obviously, we know the light is working in the dark and they are, scheming in the background still to this day. We don't exactly know up to this point what they're planning, but we do know at the end of the episode that in terms of the weather situations, we thought it had to do with the 5 kind of, frosty villains that exist within this world. And come to find out, it possibly wasn't. There might be another player involved that hopefully within the next couple episodes reveals themselves. I don't know. Every episode, outside of the classic bait and switch, I feel like it's presenting more and more questions. And these questions are ones that I hope will get answered at some point throughout the season. All in all, guys, I'm super excited. This was another one of my favorite episodes. We'll do a top 5. I think probably a top 5 video at the end of the season once we watch every episode and talk about my top 5 episodes of season 1. Why I loved them, what stood out to me about them, and why they're kind of on that list. And maybe we'll do a top 5 least favorite episodes if that's something you guys want as well. But let me know in the comment section if that's something you would be interested in seeing. All in all, guys, this was a great episode. If you guys have been hanging out since the very first episode, you've been watching the videos over on Patreon. If you want to come hang out, it's free to do so. You guys can watch all the episodes in much higher quality, complete uncut versions. And what we've been talking about and what I've been saying a lot in this season is I want Kid Flash Flash to get his episode. I want him to get his roses. I want him to have his hero moment because he's one of my favorite characters. And I'm still waiting on, Robin to get his episode. But Kid Flash was definitely close on that list of a character that I really wanted to have their moment where they really could showcase what they can do. And episode 20, Coldhearted, was easily that episode. I can't tell you how happy I was to see my boy get out there and do it on his own, because up to this point, it felt like he'd been getting dogged. It felt like he was kind of the jester of the team. He never really got the respect he deserved. So it was really nice to see him have that moment where he had to put his head down, get to work, and knock a few heads. And it was awesome. It really was awesome. Easily one of my favorite episodes of the season. I would give this easily a 9.5 out of 10. This was a great episode, and it was nice to just see a lot of the stakes be placed on singular heroes and how they go about solving and kind of handling those situations. I think that really shows a lot of character. It shows a lot of growth. And, I don't think that early season Wally would have handled the situation the same way that later season Wally has. And again, it just shows how much the character's grown in just this season. And I hope that we get to see more of this throughout the course of the season and into season 2. But, I don't want to get ahead of myself. That is all for this episode. That really stood out to me. And it was nice, again, just to see, the team split up in different ways. And, I'm still waiting on more episodes to see the team fight as a unit, but it is cool to see episodes just like this where you see singular moments in which certain characters really have to step up, and again, we've seen that with Aqualad, we've seen that with Superboy, we've seen that Artemis and Zatanna had their episode. So it's nice to see Flash get his episode, and again, just makes me really happy. And now it is time for Sidekick Sessions, where we take a look at your comments in the previous video of our recaps. And today's comment comes from Jodeci9898 that says, "Keep up the good work. Fun fact, Zatanna's magic are quite powerful. Without speaking backwards, she's able to sign her spells or write them down on any available surface. But for this purpose of combat missions, she hasn't." Oh, that's really interesting. And speaking of Zatanna, I always found it really cool that this character is able to just hear a spell and she's able to kind of like recite it and be able to cast the same spell. And, when you think of, shows like movies like Harry Potter, right? That came with a lot of training for them to be able to do that. So for Zatanna to be able to do that in this show, I feel like just shows how proficient, of a magician she is, and almost probably even higher level than her father. Another comment comes from Usagi Jin that says, "After Young Justice, can you watch with us Justice League or Justice League Unlimited? There's a similar episode in one of those TV shows." Interesting. So Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, they're TV shows, right? Because I've been getting a lot of comments about movies that you guys would love to see. And yeah, I would definitely love to potentially start doing movies as well. I know DC has a lot of them. Obviously, those are, movies and stuff, like, especially if they're DC, we would have to watch them over on the Patreon, but I would be up for watching like a Justice League film, or I know there was a Crisis on Infinite Earths, I think, had come out recently as another movie that I would be open to watching as well. So yeah, let me know if you guys want to see movies as well. Maybe we can put that on a specific tier, the Patreon, or however you guys would want to do it. And that's all for me, guys. And another episode breakdown, episode 20 was nothing short of fantastic. And again, I really enjoyed seeing Kid Flash get his moment, have his roses, and it's exactly in the way that I would have hoped and expected for one of my favorite characters in the league. But let me know what you guys thought about episode 20. How excited are you that we are almost done with season 1? We've got about 5 episodes left at this point. It's coming up quick, and I'm doing my best to get these episodes out to you guys as quickly as possible. So if you guys want to check out the full uncut version of this episode, episode 20, easily one of my favorite episodes, be sure to hit the link in the description of this video. It'll have a link to my Patreon, which will have episode 20. Should be one of the first videos you see there. Check it out. Drop a like on it if you want to support. Become a member if you want. It's not necessary though. The videos are available for everybody. So thank you so much for those that continue to support these videos. Whether they're here or on the Patreon, it really does mean the absolute world. And as long as you guys keep watching them, I'll keep going as fast as I can and getting these videos out to you guys. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.